Ever wondered what really separates the good from the truly great? It's not just talent, and it's definitely not luck. Well, according to author Robert Greene, it's a very deliberate journey. He calls it mastery. So let's dive right into his roadmap for going from a total beginner to the absolute peak of your field.
Okay, to really get this, let's think about two different people. On one hand, you've got Sam the Dabbler. We all know a Sam, right? Always jumping to the next shiny thing, hoping for some kind of shortcut to success. But on the other hand, you have Sarah, the master. She commits, she dedicates herself to one craft, she embraces the tough lessons, and she builds something that lasts. Greene's entire framework is about choosing Sarah's path.
So how do you actually do that? How do you get there? Well, the whole journey pretty much breaks down into three big stages. First up is the apprenticeship. This is where you just learn the rules, build that solid foundation. Second, you move into the creative active phase. That's where you start to bend those rules a little. And finally, you reach mastery, where you get to rewrite the rules entirely. We're going to break down every single one.
But wait, before you can even take the first step on the path, you have to know which path you're on. The first, and honestly the most crucial step of all, is to find what Greene calls your life's task. This is the work you feel like you were uniquely put here to do.
Now, what's so interesting about this idea is that it has nothing to do with what's going to make you the most money or get you the most followers. Nope, it's all about finding that deep internal pull. Think about it. People who truly love what they do have this inner engine that just doesn't quit, and that's the kind of fuel you're going to need for the long journey ahead.
So how do you find this calling? Well, Greene gives us some really powerful strategies. He says, look back to what you were obsessed with as a kid, before the world started telling you what you should be interested in. It's about finding a very specific niche that you can completely own. And a big one, you have to consciously avoid those false paths, the ones you pick just for the money or for someone else's approval. And you have to be ready for the long haul. This isn't a sprint, it's more like a 20,000-hour commitment.
Okay, so once you have your direction, it's time to roll up your sleeves and start building. This is the apprenticeship. And let's be clear, the goal here isn't about the paycheck. The goal is transformation. It's about rewiring your brain and your character through deep, focused learning.
This apprenticeship stage actually has three distinct phases itself. You start out in what he calls a passive mode. You're just observing, like a sponge, soaking up everything you can from the experts and learning the basic rules. Then you switch into practice mode. This is all about skill acquisition, focusing intensely on one thing, and embracing the boredom of repetition. Finally, you get to the experimentation phase. This is where you start to apply what you've learned and really make it your own.
Now, you want a cheat code for this whole apprenticeship thing? It's simple. Find a mentor. A great mentor is someone who's already walked the path, who's made the mistakes, and they can give you their hard-won wisdom. It will absolutely supercharge your progress.
But listen, it's a two-way street. It's on you to choose the right mentor for you, and you have to be humble enough to take their honest feedback, even when it's tough to hear. Then, the real work begins, taking their ideas and adapting them, making them part of your own unique style. The whole point is to absorb their wisdom and, one day, hopefully, even surpass them. All right, so after years of learning, of absorbing all this knowledge, you're finally ready for the next big leap, the creative, active phase. And this is where things get really exciting. This is where you go from being a student to a true innovator, someone who can actually push your entire field in a new direction. And here's a fascinating twist. At this stage, your biggest challenges aren't really about your technical skills anymore. Greene argues that the greatest obstacles you'll face are human. They're emotional and they're social. Why? Well, because you're not just following the rules anymore. You're starting to challenge the way things are done, and that makes people nervous. It makes them resistant. And dealing with all that requires a totally different kind of intelligence.
Greene actually lays out what he calls the 7 deadly realities of these social dynamics. These are universal patterns you're just going to run into. For instance, envy. It's just a part of human nature. So his strategy is simple. Blend in at first. Don't be flashy. Then later on, let your amazing work do the talking. Or think about rigidity. Most people just hate change. That means you have to be the one who stays flexible and open-minded. Understanding these dynamics is absolutely crucial.
To really innovate, you've got to develop what Greene calls a dimensional mind. And he gives us concrete strategies for this. One of my favorites is cultivating negative capability. It just means getting comfortable with uncertainty, being okay with not having the answer right away. He also says you have to allow for serendipity. Go explore totally unrelated fields. And constantly, always be altering your perspective. Look at problems from every single angle, not just the obvious one. And here is a huge warning for this stage. Whatever you do, do not get comfortable. Success can make you lazy. It can make you conservative. You have to actively fight that urge to just play it safe and keep doing what worked in the past. Real creativity only ever happens when you're pushing yourself right up against your own limits.
And that brings us to the final peak. We've arrived at mastery. This is the end game. This is where all those thousands of hours of practice and deep knowledge fuse together into something truly remarkable, a higher form of intelligence.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Mastery isn't about throwing away logic and reason. It's about fusing your rational mind with a powerful, highly developed intuition. After all that time, you start to see patterns and connections that nobody else can. It's almost like a superpower. Greene has this great term for it, the fingertip feel. It's that state where the skill is so deep inside you, it's just part of your nervous system. It's become second nature. You don't even have to think about the basics anymore, and that frees up your conscious mind to operate on a much higher, more strategic, more creative level. But here it is, maybe the single most important takeaway of all. You never actually arrive. Mastery is not a destination. It's not a finish line you cross and get a trophy. It is a lifelong journey. It's a constant process of learning, of pushing your limits, and of staying humble enough to realize just how much you still have to learn.
Look, the path that Greene lays out is hard. It's long. There's no doubt about it. But it's also incredibly fulfilling. It's about building a legacy, not just clocking in and out of a job. So the real question isn't whether you're capable of doing it. The question is, where are you going to start? Where does your path begin today?